Yeah, that's a good question. I think, just feeling some good chemistry with different situations and line mates I've been playing with, and I think we're just reading off each other well out there, and just playing just smart, sound hockey and making good decisions for the most part. So I think that's kind of what, especially lately, I feel like we're just really buying into that, and it's nothing too flashy or anything like that, but I think just playing smart and playing the game the right way that you can have success as the season continues to go on.
When you're as well traveled as you are, is it easier to adjust to new line mates very quickly? I mean,
yeah, you learn some different things maybe to talk through or try, and it's different with every guy. Though there's different ways they might see a play or read the game or where they like to be on the ice. So for me, I think it's just a constant communication, and I think I've learned that, especially over the last few years, just switching from different teams. Just the more you can talk after shifts, between games, during practice, just. I'm sure maybe sometimes it can be annoying, but I think it's a good thing to just always have that constant dialogue. What were you seeing on this? What were you thinking on this? And just that goes all into the kind of computing the game and just what I'm thinking, trying to approach a certain scenario, and maybe thinking what my line mate's thinking and things like that.
The pass you made to Dylan the other night, I mean, right there in front of the net, is that just veteran experience kind of
I don't know. I mean, obviously I've been playing that role on the power play for pretty much my whole career in front of the net, so I think you see a lot of different bounces of rebounds and different things where guys like to go, and he has made a great play to get himself available. I think something I've noticed playing with him this year is just how he does a good job of finding just quiet ice on the power play, especially. And so especially for me, if I'm too tight to the goalie, or if I'm just going to be basically jamming it into the goalie, I might as well see if there's a place where he is, where he might have a better chance to score.
And, after relying on pretty much 4 guys for a bulk of the offense earlier in the season, just how important has it been scoring from different sources, getting that secondary scoring?
Yeah, I mean, especially over the course of an 82-game season, obviously there's going to be different ebbs and flows where guys get hot at different times and things like that, and obviously some of it can be stuff around special teams and things like that too. So I think again, just having a consistent approach with all the guys, I think we've seen it. We've had different guys all over the lineup chip in offensively, so that's what it takes to win in this league, especially in a year like this. I feel like where the games are so compressed that you need guys chipping in all over the place. So I think we've had that, and we got to continue to keep that up.
You talked about playing the net front for your whole career. I mean, how has that role changed on power plays in the modern game? It seems like there's a lot more kind of at the goal line even now.
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like it used to just stick the biggest guy there and just hope for the biggest, strongest guy, and just have him maybe just stand literally right on top of the paint and just whack pucks in. But and now it's morphed into being more of an option, an outlet down low to make low plays and things like that. And that's something I think I've always kind of prided myself on, even earlier on, is just being a little bit more. Having a couple more tools in my game to be able to utilize down there than just screening and just whacking in rebounds. I think being able to, again, it can make it hard to defend, because that's the one. Usually teams are, again, inviting that play down to the goal line for whatever reason. So if you're able to make a few plays from down there, it can create a lot of space for the other plays to open up, and then obviously when you're right down there, right close to the net, it's usually a pretty good chance that can come off of it.
Even before like the NHL, did you play down there too, or did something like?
No, I played a little bit down there too. The power plays were a little bit different though, and when I was coming up through the U.S. program, I think we played more of a kind of like an overload where myself and Colin Wilson, who I played with at the U.S. program, would kind of be more rolling around from the goal line to the half wall, and I was probably a little bit more goal line even then too. But now I think pretty much every team has the same structure. Obviously, there's different reads and sets off of that, but now it's pretty much the same formation pretty much for every team. So yeah, it's nothing gets too crazy different. Necessarily. It's sometimes just a matter of what hand the guys are and things like that.
But when you got hit by a puck like the first couple times, like with a shot or something, it's like, oh man, this isn't a whole lot of fun or something.
Yeah, that was my first year in the league at Chris Pronger. I think that's what really made me buy into that role, to be honest, because you're just kind of wide-eyed and just thinking you just go work and play and whatever. But he was like, early on in my career, he would take me out before practice and be ripping shots at me pretty hard from pretty close, and so sometimes they definitely did hit me there. But I think he saw in me just the potential to make that a little bit of a calling card for me as a player, and definitely thankfully did that, because that's something I've really leaned into over the years, and something I take a lot of pride in.
With Nate being sent down, earlier in your career, kind of speaking of being wide-eyed, were there any instances where you were kind of struggling to put points together as a younger player, and then what did you really kind of see out of his game and his time here that you spent with him?
Yeah, I mean, right away, especially you can. I think for me, when you play on a guy's line, you can really tell just kind of what they have and to offer. And again, obviously, when you're younger, you're developing and things like that. But he's got a world-class brain and IQ for the game, and he goes to the right spots on the ice. He's easy to play with and predictable in that way. So he's got a bright future ahead of him. So yeah, I'm sure he'll be back here sooner than later.
When lines get shuffled around the way they were this week, usually a coach is trying to send a message. What did you guys take from that?
Yeah, I think just we needed to find just a little bit more urgency. And yeah, obviously just looking for maybe, again, it's a long season, and there's going to be different times where things get maybe shaken up a little bit, especially with combinations and things like that. So I think, again, it's kind of a good thing in a way, because I think the more versatile maybe we can be and have different combinations that work, sometimes that makes it easier when you're playing certain matchups to be able to switch things around to help the team in a way. So yeah, I think having some of that versatility and stuff like that is a good thing.
Good morning.
Morning. Todd,
Afternoon.
when you're juggling lines and figuring out who to put with whom, how easy is it to plug James Van Riemsdyk in pretty much anywhere?
Well, one, you have, we have some evidence with him now, but we didn't really need that. We've been able to see him play over the years, and he's a stabilizing factor on the line. May not be the fastest guy, but he knows who he is and what he does, and he's been there so many times on the boards versus pressure, back checking, good reads, what's going to happen. So it's not difficult to find him line mates, but we always look at what he might complement the best or vice versa.
Just to follow up, his impact on the power play, I mean, that heads-up pass he made to Dylan the other night, and just in general.
That's his, that's his work area, is in and around the net. And a lot of times you just put somebody there for screen purposes or tip-ins, deflections. He can make plays down there. You've seen a lot of his power play goals where he uses his hands. He creates some time and space for himself, but also for others. The Dylan goal the other night's a prime example.
What fully went into the decision to send down Nate Danielson, and what would you like to see from him in Grand Rapids in order to earn an eventual callback?
Well, the Danny decision, when Danny was in training camp, he had a hell of a camp, and we talked about him likely starting with our team coming out of it, and the injury set him back. So he went down there, he played, I don't know what he was, 6-7 games maybe, and then up he came. When we brought him up, we hoped that things would go real well and that would be fine, but we weren't sure if he was ready or not. And we've given him a good run here where he's had some really good nights. And then there's other nights where they've just been okay, which is typical of a young player. But we want him to continue the offensive trajectory that we think is in him. And we couldn't put him in spots right now on our team where he could really push for that. And if his confidence in those situations wavering, and we've got to get him back to where he can be comfortable and confident. He'll play a lot of minutes in Grand Rapids. We want him to work on the intensity of the offense part. So those moments where you gotta win a 2-second play, whether that's mentally done, physically done, skill done, win those 2-second plays so that offense comes out of it. And a lot of it is the physical part of it, and he'll get that down there.
And then the contributions of Andrew Copp, you've spoken openly about and even said it may as well be the de facto first line. are you really starting to show that it really was not a coincidence that the fortunes of this team unfortunately began kind of a downturn when he got hurt last season?
Well, we can put that into the equation. Certainly he was playing well when he got hurt last year. He was a factor. He was playing with those two, and they were playing well at the time. So all that adds up. But if he ends up in a situation where he can't play again, that doesn't mean the team should fall off and not have success. So yes, he was a catalyst, but no, it shouldn't be. He shouldn't be the one that bails everybody else out. This team has to get strong enough and committed enough that if we lose one player, we're not going in the tank.
With Copp and JVR in particular, and then last game Rasmussen scored. Are you pleased with what you're seeing from secondary sources here as far as contributing, taking some of the pressure off? Seemed like the top four guys were doing most of the scoring earlier.
It is. I think I used the words. You guys asked me that question. It's a must earlier in the year, and we've been able to get it. So when some of the bigger, higher end scorers on our team have gone dry, there's been that support system, and it's not just coming from one individual. It's coming from a variety of different ones in different ways. A shorthanded goal the other night, first of the season. So I'll reiterate that it's a must that we get that, and it's also a must that the big boys keep producing as the season goes on.
Well, speaking of which, Todd, good to see Razor score the other night. I mean, do you think that'll help his confidence? I don't know if he needs help with his confidence, but it's good to see him score probably. Absolutely,
and it can't hurt. He went to a new line. He accepted responsibility for his game. He went there and he made that line work. I thought it was an effective line in that game. He scored 5 on 5. So all of those factors, they don't hurt anybody's confidence. Razor wasn't lacking confidence, but it's nice to get the reward.
Was he shooting the puck enough in your eyes, or would you want to see him shoot the puck more?
I think he's got such a good shot that and I believe that certain players can score from distance, and others have to get quite close to the net. I would put Razor and Cat in those distant ability ones, and sometimes he thinks he's got to get real close to the net to score, beat one more guy and then shoot it. But he used a D-man as a screen. Didn't in his mind he was shooting that puck the whole time. He changed the shooting angle and in it went. So if you're a top scorer in the league, you're getting close to 300 shots a year. You just are. It doesn't matter who it is. And Cat's on pace for, I don't know where he is now, 38, 40 or whatever it is. He's going to have close to 300 shots based on his totals right now.
You went to Finney and Casper with Larkin in the Ottawa game and looked like that today as well. What can all this, that's a ton of speed on one line, like what can that allow and open up for them?
That alone, it should put pressure on the opposition with and without the puck. If you're defending it and they're coming down on a rush with that speed on both sides and through the middle of the rink, that's a lot to handle. And now you give up the puck and they're closing on you, if you will. That's going to happen quicker. So they use their legs and they use their speed and support each other. They should be a boatload to handle.
Does it put Marco in a position? I mean, I know you want him meat and potatoes as well, but to maybe use his skill a little more in addition.
I want Marco to be Marco, and we're still trying to figure out all of that. But I think his physicality and his tenacity is at a higher level right now, and he has a skill set. We looked at Marco's shooting percentage first half, second half last year, and just in his individual chances. I think the first half was, I forget what it was, 12% or something like that, and then it went to 35% just in his chances, actual grade A chances, which is astronomical. This year when we did the study, he was at 7.1, so that's a dramatic fall off 35 to 7.1. He's going to fall in there somewhere in between, and it'll all shake out when it's done.